Welcome. My name is Greg Hogan. I work at the Oklahoma State University Environment, Health, and Safety Department. Today we're going to be discussing and training what's referred to as office ergonomics. Some of the things we're going to be covering during this time will be contact, talk about stress, force, repetition. We'll also be covering multiple skeletal disorders, or MSDS signs and symptoms, working postures, computer and office equipment setup, hand and ergonomic issues, and laptop ergonomic guidelines. We'll be covering those as well. Office ergonomics, one of the things that a lot of people don't give too much thought about is there is not a single correct posture or arrangement of contents that will fit everyone, particular shape and size or stature. That's something that we're going to give you just some of the basic guidelines to kind of go off of. And once again, do keep this in mind. Everyone is totally different as far as how their setup is concerned in their workplace. Office ergonomics is the science of designing the job to fit the worker, not forcing the worker to fit the job. Ergonomics also covers all aspects of the job. It covers the physical stressors. Good examples of that may include the joints, the muscles, the nerve, tendons, and bones. Environmental factors also include the hearing, the vision, your general comfort and discomfort in the work environment. Enhanced comfort, increased productivity, improved job satisfaction and morale, reduced musculoskeletal disorders or discomforts. As far as work injuries, work illnesses are concerned. That's all ties in with office ergonomics. And that's what we're really going to spend a lot of time on as far as discussion is concerned. Let's talk about contact stress first. This is one that a person can experience, loss of contact stress in their forearms. And basically what it comes down to is you can get that from resting your arms on the leading edge of the work table. A good example we put in this illustration right here, as you can see, it's got a nice table here, nice desk area to work off of. Even though it does have a rounded edge to this particular tabletop, you will notice the person is actually pushing down right here. In other words, their hands placed against the edge, and when that does occur, you may start having the numbness, the burning sensation. You may also experience pain or even numbness in the leg areas, your feet, for an example. Particularly if you have contact stress where your knee and the fall of the chair is, you start putting pressure against those two areas right there, and a lot of times the foot will go to sleep. Your forearms, wrists can also be affected when the wrist have sharp edges or hard leading edges. The tendons can become damaged. Good example of that may be repetitive finger motion. Tasks are performed with a bent wrist. In other words, you do the same task over and over and over, and that's what you're really trying to avoid. The force affects your fingers, your forearm areas, your muscles, your shoulders, your necks are continually being used to lift the arm away from the body if the mouse is placed too far away. In other words, you're pushing down on that part of the body. And when that does occur, once again, that's what they consider as force. The muscles of the back can become strained. If you must tilt your head back to view a monitor, that is too high. You put a tremendous amount of force on your upper neck, even on the head area itself. Another example would be repetition. Okay, doing the same task over and over and over. That's what they call repetition. A lot of times repetition, they think, well, it just involves the use of my hands. That's not necessarily true. Repetition could be an example, maybe sitting for long periods of time, standing for long periods of time in a fixed position or a static position. And the other thing, too, is a proficient typist, once again, performs about 18,000 keystrokes per hour. That's a lot of keystrokes if you really think about it. Repetitive motions can also lead to tendon sheath injuries, especially in the wrist, if that particular wrist is in a bent during the activity. Similar repetitions occur when using a pointing device, such as a mouse, for an example. And the other thing, too, is The hazard also may be greater because the motions are often concentrated in only one or even a few fingers in one hand, for an example. In other words, not using both hands. Maybe it's just one specific area that a person has focused themselves in as far as doing repetitive type motions. Computer operator also may remain in what essentially the same posture for an entire shift. I talked about that earlier. And that's what you really trying to avoid, repetition. A poorly designed workstation causes you to repetitively use a mouse or even answer the phone, can cause fatigue of the muscles, the shoulders, irritate the tendons. That's repetition. Reducing repetition, in other words, how do you prevent it from occurring? Couple things to kind of look for there. If you perform a variety of tasks when possible, intersperse them throughout the workday, spread them out over a longer period of time, if all possible. Switch up the job task as much as you possibly can. Take micro breaks, take pause breaks. Micro break, a couple of minutes, get up, move around, look away at something, stretch, take a short stroll or short walk to a certain destination and walk back. In other words, get yourself up and get your body moving as much as you possibly can. And that does help tremendously in the reduction of repetitiveness. Awkward postures does play an important part. Muscles can become stretched or compressed, causing them to be inefficient, resulting in possible fatigue and even overexertion. Non-neutral positions or postures can pull and even stretch tendons, the blood vessels, the nerves over ligaments or even bones, where they can become pinched or even restricted. Tendons in their sheaths is another example where they can rub on bones and ligaments, cause irritation, cause fraying. Once again, the other example include restricts nerves and even blood vessels. Has some type of restriction in that particular area. Tingling and numbness sensation in the fingers, the hands, as pain basically from tendonitis, tenosynovitis, inflammation of the tendon sheath can result. In other words, it basically doesn't miss any part of the body if you really get to looking at from sitting or even standing for long periods of time. Good working positions or postures is another important thing. Try to keep your body what's referred to as a neutral posture or a neutral position. A good example of that is to try to maintain comfortable working posture in which your joints are naturally aligned. Try and remember this: if you keep your ear, your shoulder, and your hip all in line with each other, you keep your body in what they call a neutral position. It does reduce stress. It does reduce strain on the muscles, the tendons, the skeletal system. And once again, it does reduce your risk of developing what's referred to as musculoskeletal disorders or MSDs. That's all comes back to a good working position or working posture. Neutral body postures include, we're going to give you some examples. The hands, the wrists, the forearms. Try to keep those as straight and parallel to the floor as you possibly can. The head should be level or even bent slightly forward and balanced. The shoulders should be relaxed. Upper arms hang normally at the side of the body. The elbows should be bent between 90 to 120 degrees, far as if you're going to be sitting for a period of time. Other parts of the body kind of think about as your feet. Your feet are fully supported by the floor or a footrest. What you don't want to do is have your feet dangling off the edge of the chair. So use some type of footrest. Plant your feet on the floor itself if all possible. The back needs to make sure it's fully supported. The lumbar region needs to be supported. The thighs and the hip areas are supported by well-padded seats and are generally parallel to the floors. If you look at a majority of your office chairs, seats that you have for office type work, the edge of the seat, bottom of the seat pan, actually has a slight curvature coming up on the side of the thigh area. And what that does, it also provides not only padding, but also keeps you in a correct alignment with your posture. The knees should be about the same height as the hips or slightly forward a little bit. One of the things you want to keep in mind on the knees is make sure those knees are going downward just a little bit. And what you don't want to do is have the knees higher than the hips. because if you do, what's going to happen is you start getting that excruciating pain in the side of the hip area. And it is avoidable. Just lower the knees down just a little bit and the pain will subside. Working posture. Regardless of how good your working posture is, working in the same posture or sitting still for prolonged periods of time is not healthy for the human body. You should make, once again, small working positions change frequently throughout the day. Make small adjustments to the chair, the backrest. Stretch your fingers, your hands, your arms, your torso. Stand up, walk around, move for periods of time throughout that particular day if all possible. The picture you see directly in front of you is an example of working postures. We give you the individual who is sitting. We also give you the individual who is standing. If you will take note of either one of them, whether they're sitting or standing, look at the ear, the shoulder, and the hip. These are all lined up directly in one symmetrical order, directly lined up here. As far as sitting and as far as standing, they're all lined up right here. And when you do that, you actually keep that spine in what's referred to as a neutral posture. And that's what you're really trying to achieve out there. We give you other examples of working postures. So example is upright sitting position. If you're going to be sitting in a chair for a period of time, if we'll notice the back is straight. But take note of the knees. A person sitting in this chair right here, if you will notice, the knees go what? Just a little bit slightly downward, directly in front. And once again, it does what? It does take the pressure off of the lower back area. Standing, once again, we give an example of an individual who's standing correctly. Take note, the ear, the shoulder, and the hip, they're all within line of this individual. Same way if they're sitting, ear, shoulder, and hip are all lined up right there together where it should be. Sometimes people like to kind of decline when they're sitting. You say, well, what's a declining posture? What's a declining position look like? The simple way to remember this is the bottom of the front portion of the seat of the chair the person's sitting in goes slightly downward. And when this does occur, once again, the torso is vertical and slightly reclined, and the legs are vertical. In other words, they kind of go downhill just a little bit. That's what they call declining position. A reclining position, a little bit different. If you will notice, once again, the knees still go downhill just a little bit. But the biggest change with the reclining position is the back of the chair is between 105 and 120 degrees as far as the tilt back of the chair itself. That's going to be some of your biggest changes that you're going to notice between those two. Let's talk about your monitors. Monitors are extremely important for you to do your daily work. Put the monitor directly in front of you and have at least 20 inches away. That 20 inches, is it going to be different for different individuals? Most definitely it would be. And the other thing too is place the monitor so the top line of the screen is at or below eye level. The other thing too is place the monitor perpendicular to the window. And the other thing too that I want to kind of bring up while we're talking about monitors. For those of you that may be in the stage of your life where you may be wearing, let's say, bifocals for an example, the top part of those lenses that you have is going to be where you're going to figure your depth with the monitor. The lower portion of the bifocal is normally going to be for your reading, particularly if you're trying to read maybe a document for an example. So do kind of always keep that in mind when you are making adjustments to the monitor. The other thing too is the height of the monitor should be at eye level, just a little bit below eye level. And when that does occur, it keeps your head and your neck and your shoulders and your hip in a neutral posture, and also your lower back as well. And that's what you're trying to accomplish there. The keyboard, that's another important part of a work type setting and an office type workplace. We give you an example of 3 different types of keyboards up there. First thing is make sure you put the keyboard directly in front of you. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed and your elbows are close to the body. Your wrists should be straight and in line with your forearms. The top keyboard that you see directly on your screen there, that's a pretty traditional keyboard. It's really just straight across Not really a lot of change to it, just pretty much straight and flat's what that particular keyboard's noted for. If you'll notice the one in the middle right here, this is an ergonomic keyboard. It does have kind of a contour shape built into the keyboard itself. It does take a little bit of practice to get used to using one of these. But the other most important thing to remember these ergonomic keyboards is the way they're designed is when you bring your hands from your side of your body, you bring them up to the keyboard, it brings and positions your hands what they call a neutral posture. And that's what these keyboards are designed for. The keyboard you see at the very bottom, that's what they call a split keyboard. In other words, you can take this keyboard and you can make it as wide or as close as you possibly want to. And that's what some people, once again, do require. And that's something that is doable. So once again, they have designed a keyboard that has a little bit of width. You can make it as wide as you possibly can or make it as narrow as you possibly can. But that's up to the individual. The pointing devices, that's the other part of having a keyboard. Keyboard accessories is another one. This kind of goes along with it as well. The pointing device, keep the pointer, the mouse close to the body as a keyboard as you possibly can. Alternate the hands basically when you try to operate the pointer or mouse. A lot of y'all may not be able to utilize both your left and your right hand at different times, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But still at that, it doesn't really matter if you're using one hand or two hands. You've always got to remember you've got to take your micro breaks. You've got to do your hand stretches. The mouses, they do come in different shapes, sizes, makes, models. Find one that fits your particular hand shape and size. That's the key thing to remember with pointing devices. They do come in different shapes and sizes. Let's go to the other part up here, wrist and palm supports. This is another one a lot of people have out there. One of the things I want y'all to take note of with these wrist and palm supports is over a period of time you're going to have to replace them. And the reason I say that is, the fact is, if you're doing any type of using a wrist rest or a palm support, whichever one it is, your hand or your wrist is virtually pushing down on the material that's virtually inside of this particular rest right here. And what happens is, over a period of time, it gets become a little bit less in depth. And when that does occur, it does put your hand in an awkward position. So once again, do expect to have to replace these periodically over a period of time due to the shape and the contour of the rest itself. So that's something to kind of take note of there. The document holder. This is another important thing that's very important. And the fact is, with document holders, the whole idea behind that is to keep that document as at the same level, side by side of whatever the monitor is that you're working off of. And what that does eliminates you from having to tilt your head up and down constantly. You can sit there and you can see what information's on the document. You can look there and you can transpose that information directly over to the computer as well. So, and what you're doing is you're keeping your head at a neutral posture, and that's what you're trying to achieve. The desks. Desks come in all different shapes, sizes, makes, models. You've got what they consider as the old traditional desk. Basically does not have any type of adjustment to it. There's nothing wrong with those. If you do have a desk that is not adjustable, you will have to come in and make a few changes as far as raising the height of the monitors, things of that particular nature. But once again, you're in what they call a fixed type of a desk. Okay, not a lot of movement to those type of desks. One of the newer style desks that you're starting to see a lot of groups kind of go with, and they do work very well, whether you like to sit or whether you like to stand, is what they consider as electric desktop. In other words, they have either pre-select heights, or you can go in and select the height that works best for you. You can raise these desks up, you can lower them, you can stand, or you can even sit with those type of desks. It's a very versatile type of a desk because once again, different people can move in and use that particular office, and they do have the ability to make adjustments to the height of the desk without too much of a problem. So that's kind of a plus side to those. The other thing too is on your desk is try to avoid storing a lot of objects or items on top of that desktop. Make it as free as you possibly can and as clean as you possibly can. That way it's easier for you to work off that particular desktop. The chair is the other most important part of the job. Believe it or not, a chair plays a huge part as far as the comfort of you as an employee when you're working in a fixed position for a period of time. The backrest should be comfortable. It should be adjustable. Very important to remember that. The other most important thing, remember, is the seat bottom or the seat pan. That's going to be this portion right here, the red part you see directly on the screen, or it could be the yellow part, or it could be the black part, depends on which chair you're looking at. This is what they consider as the seat pan or the seat bottom of the chair itself. That seat bottom should be adjustable, should be able to move it forward or backwards. The other important thing to remember on a chair is the armrest. Armrests should be able to move them up and down. You should be able to move them in or out away from that individual. The other thing too to kind of remember as far as these armrests are concerned, they need to have as much adjustment as you possibly can put into them, because here's the thing, throughout the day you're probably going to adjust them at least one or two times probably to fit your particular comfort level for whatever amount of time that you're sitting in that particular position. The chair should also have 5 legs on the base of it, and the reason behind the 5 legs, people always ask, well, I thought a chair had 4 legs to it. Well, actually a chair does, but an office chair actually has 5 legs for that particular chair. Here's the thing, no matter where you turn in that chair in a 360-degree circle, you always have a support directly beneath you at any given time. And what that does keeps you from doing what? Flipping the chair or flipping out of the chair, because it always has a support directly underneath of you. The chair also, once again, has some type of a backrest associated with it. On the very far left of the screen up here, we give you one has a backrest that's too low. Remember I said your lumbar support is where your waistline is, and your last rib, it's the distance in between. This is your lumbar region, or the curvature in your lower portion of your back. Once again, this particular picture it's too low. And what's doing actually causes a person to kind of arch their back where they should not have to. Look at the one in the middle right here. This is what we're looking for right here, folks. This is perfect. As far as alignment is concerned, once again, the lumbar region is above the waistline, directly below the last rib of that individual, and it does take up the curvature within the lower portion of the back. In other words, this individual right here has really, really good back support, and that's what you're really trying to achieve. Here's an example over to the very far right here of a backrest who is too high. It's raised up too high, and when that happens is it kind of gives you that kind of a hunched forward effect. And that's what you're really trying to avoid there as well. Or a person may be trying to lean too far back in the chair, and it does cause an uncomfortable arch in the upper portion of the spinal column. So just kind of take note of that with the chair as far as your lumbar region is concerned. The armrest, I covered those just a little bit earlier, but I do want to re-emphasize a couple important points right here. Number one is if the armrests are too low, the person's going to have a tendency to kind of put a lot of force, downward force, on the wrist and the hand area, because what they try to do, they try to basically keep themselves propped up a little bit. If you'll notice the individual here in the middle picture, this is ideal. Once again, from the shoulder to the elbow area, from the elbow to the forearm area, where your elbow and your arm actually bends right here, should be between 90 and 100 degrees as far as the degrees of bend or curvature should be at that time. If you get it too high, the armrest, this is where a lot of times people may get kind of that hunched shoulder effect. But the other thing too is a lot of people will experience is they start getting that excruciating pain that runs right up to shoulder blade areas, between the shoulder blades, and it goes directly up to the mid portion of the neck and even up to the head area. Lower those shoulders down. Make sure those shoulders are relaxed in a neutral position or posture for that particular individual. Some of y'all have to use a phone throughout the day. That's something that, once again, it's a great office tool. It does work for what it's designed for. But if you do have a traditional phone that has a headset or a handheld device to it, where you're having to hold it in your hand while you're talking on the phone, try to, if all possible, put the phone on speaker. Speakerphone, or better than that, maybe opt for a headset. Those are some things that do work. And one thing that you may not give too much thought about is a lot of times when people uses a traditional handheld phone device or receiver, they have a tendency to raise your shoulder up, push the head over to that particular side, and try to hold the phone receiver between the ear and the shoulder area. And what happens is it causes a lot of strain or stress, not so much on the side that's being held on as it is the opposite side, is where a lot of times they'll experience that stress or that pain in that particular region. Look at your workstation environment. In other words, the area you work in. How's it set up? Do you have any glare in that area? Are there any overhead lights? Do you have any desk lamps, any type of windows that could be causing you any type of issues? When you're looking at a workstation environment, there's a few things to kind of go back and look at. Number one is, do you have any glare directly coming down on the screen itself? And if the answer is yes, you do, go back and kind of either reposition the tilt of the monitor. You may have to go in and kind of lower the brightness of the monitor just a little bit, or maybe you have to come in and maybe think about some type of light diffusers to be placed in the office area. The other thing too is, if your monitor background is too bright, you're going to have a tendency to move away from the monitor itself. If your background's too dark, individuals have a tendency to kind of lean forward. So find a neutral color that works best for your type of work environment. And that's something that you'll have to make that decision, because every individual is going to be different as far as what works for them. The other thing too is, if you have an office area and it has air conditioning blowing directly on top of you, try to position your desk away from the air conditioning or the heat vent, whichever one it may be, so it's not blowing directly on top of you or directly down onto you. And here's what you'll experience. You kind of have to watch for this as well. If you happen to be sitting directly underneath an air conditioner vent, you sit there for a period of time, your body gets a little chill to it. Next thing you know, those muscles, those blood vessels kind of start to constrict in just a little bit, and you get kind of a tight posture, and that's what you're really trying to avoid. Those muscles start to tighten up. When they do, you become very discomforted. Not only that, but you're going to start looking for different type of positions to be setting in. So kind of go back and look in your work environment. These things you could change, or maybe you have to have someone come in and assist you with those changes. But that's something to kind of look at with the workplace environment. The other thing too is go back and look to see if you have any lamps in the room that you're working in. If you do, there's nothing wrong with those. Just make sure you don't have any glare coming off the light. Where it's a desk lamp or even a pole lamp that may be standing in the corner of the room that's shining directly onto the monitor itself. Because if it does, that's going to be additional brightness of light that you're going to have to contend with, and you may not be able to see the screen quite as good as you could before. So just to make some changes there if it is applicable for your particular work environment. Exercises. Exercises play a crucial role when you go back and look with office ergonomic type of issues. Pre-stretches is what we're talking about here. One of the things you want to keep in mind with pre-stretches is gradually start out. If you do 2 or 3 pre-stretch exercises, there's nothing wrong with that at the very beginning. But try and create a goal. Each day try and increase it, maybe 1 or 2 additional exercises you may do as far as how many times you do that exercise. Take micro breaks periodically, short rest breaks. Stand up, move around. Remember earlier I said that the human body was not designed to be just sitting. It's not designed to be just standing all day. We're designed to be moving. And once again, get up and kind of mix up your day if all possible. You know, figure out non-computer activity that you can actually do, and get up and go do those. Then come back to the computer monitor. One of the things that you do want to keep in mind with any type of computer work or even standing activity, between 30 and 45 minutes. If all possible, get up and move around, take micro breaks. Because what you don't want to do is get in what I referred to earlier during the presentation was a static posture. You really got to be careful with that as well. Some exercises, once again, and we kind of give you some variety of different ones. And the exercises, here's the thing to keep in mind. They're low impact, they're low stress on the body. And the other thing, too, is blink with your eyes. Exercise those eyes. Look out at something very far away. Bring your distance in. Look up, look down, look to the right, look to the left. Do some type of head rolls, side to side, front to back, shoulder shrugs, arms overhead stretches, side to side, backwards for an example. Stretch your legs outward off the floor. You can sit in a chair. You can do ankle rolls if you needed to. You can do seated knee raises. You can, once again, lift your feet directly up off the ground. Whether you're sitting or if you're standing, you can kind of overreach or overstretch just a little bit as far as these desk exercises. One of the things you want to keep in mind, though, is don't just do it just one time a day. Do it multiple times throughout the day. And once again, you're trying to keep yourself as loosened up as you possibly can, and kind of think of your job kind of like being an athlete. You know, an athlete, before they start doing any type of competitive type sports, they do what? They do pre-stretches. Same way with you working in an office type setting. Think of yourself as an athlete. Once again, you're going to come to do a job task. You're doing a lot of repetitive hand motions, arm motions. Your fingers are moving all the time. You're sitting for periods of time. You know, do exercises to eliminate things like that as much as you possibly can. Let's go back to signs of MSD as musculoskeletal disorders, signs and symptoms. Very classic examples. The first one you'll see directly on your screen right there. Numbness or burning sensation in the hands. What that can be caused from, once again, is a lot of force being pushed down. Make sure you get a good hand grip. Keep that hand strength up as much as you possibly can. Because you say, well, I work with a keyboard every day, so that should be enough. What we're talking about, developing your grip strength, and the answer to that is no, it's not. That's repetitive motion that you're doing. We're talking about you actually being able to grasp hold something and squeeze and keep that strength up in those hands as much as you possibly can. These little stress balls work great. There's all kinds of, you can sit there in a chair and just sit there and grip your hands back and forth. Not only does that build up strength, but also loosens up the strength, avoids the stiffness in the joints. Pain in the wrists, forearm, elbows, necks, even the back areas, for an example. Those are all classified as musculoskeletal disorders. You range of motion in the shoulder, the neck, and the back area. In other words, try to increase that range of motion as much as you possibly can. The other thing, too, is you say, well, eyes, is that part of multiple skeletal disorders? Yes, it is. One thing is, if your eyes start to get dried out, they start getting very red, they start itching, your eyes become very sore. So once again, does it have something to do with maybe you need an eye examination done? Maybe you need to put some type of some type of lubricants, or maybe you have a tremendous amount of eye strain going on with the way your setup is. This all comes down to musculoskeletal disorders as symptoms, what we're looking for there. Blurred or double vision. In other words, just don't sit there for periods of time or stand there for periods of time and just stare at that monitor, that screen. Get up and move around. Aching, even tingling sensation, cramping. The thing about cramps, you kind of have to watch for those is it may be a lack of fluid out of your muscles. A good example of that may be the calf muscles, the thigh muscles, the lower back muscles, the upper shoulder areas. Once again, go back and look at your hydration. Are you drinking ample amounts of water? You say, well, do we have to drink water, a lot of water while we're in an office type setting? And the answer is yes, you need to. That's something else to kind of go back, and it does prevent cramps from occurring. The other thing, too, is another symptom as far as musculoskeletal disorders are concerned is weakness. Okay, that right there is another classic example. Carpal tunnel, let's talk about the inside of the wrist area itself. Inside view of the wrist. We do give you an example directly on the screen here in front of you. One of the things I want y'all to take note of is what they call the median nerve. That's this part right here that basically runs right in the kind of the palm of the hand area itself. And it does result in numbness or even pain. One of the things I want y'all to take note of over on the very, as far as this picture is concerned right here, look at this. It affects the thumb, your index finger, your middle finger, and then half of your ring fingers, all that it does affect. You say, well, how does this happen? What's going on here? Remember I talked about earlier when you start getting pressure pushed against the blood vessels, how it can start having that numbness or burning sensation? If you come over to the figure on the very far right of the screen right here, you can see the tunnel running through there. That's the carpal tunnel itself. One of the things that you do want to take note of, though, is that tendon or that median nerve and that tunnel starts to kind of become closer together, or the carpal tunnel ligament becomes thickened from over rapidly using it over and over and over. It becomes thicker. It does start to push down on the median nerve, and when that does occur, what happens is you start getting that numbness, burning, or tingling sensation in the hand. It doesn't matter if it's a left hand or right hand. It can still affect the individual the same way. So do kind of take note of that. Let's go through the other one up here. It's what they call the median nerve. Okay, the median nerve, if you'll take note of this, it does cause pain in the front of the wrist area. A lot of times you can think about the top side of the wrist area, is what you can kind of look for there. Numbness or tingling, the thumb, index, middle, even half the ring finger, weakness in the hands, with tendency to drop objects. Remember earlier I talked about grip? This is one to kind of take note of right here with the median nerve. You reach down to grasp something, you may drop it. You may not have that gripping strength that you had before. The other thing too is increased pain and tingling at night while sleeping. In other words, the body is what? It's not moving. It's not active. And that's when you start getting that numbness or burning sensation in the hands, particularly at night while sleeping. No motion is what we're referred to that as. You get the cubital tunnel, or even the funny bone. Some people call it that. It's the oval nerve, passes on by the inside of the elbow through the fibrous tunnel. Swelling can be put pressure on the oval nerve. Symptoms are felt at the elbow and even into the little finger area, which is kind of interesting. In fact, is what it's also called. They call cubital tunnel syndrome. So this particular one, it does affect which part of the body? Not only the elbow area, but also affects what? The pinky or the small finger on the body. So that's another example of what to kind of look for there. We give you some different type of hand movements, okay? We give you the good and the bad, or the don't and the do. The thing you want to keep in mind, if you look at the very top picture of the screen right here, this is what you don't want to do. Remember earlier I said you want to keep those wrists as straight and your hands as straight as you possibly can. Well, what's happened in this particular picture right here, the individual's actually resting their wrists directly on top of the desktop area. But look how much uphill or kind of elevated the hand, not only the fingers, they come up, the hand elevates to a certain point, but then the fingers have to bend to actually fit directly on the keyboard itself. That's what you don't want to do, okay? You want to make sure those hands at the very bottom picture right here are as straight and as lined up as you possibly can when you do any type of inputting. It doesn't matter if it's on a laptop, if it's on a keyboard, a traditional keyboard like y'all see here. Keep those wrists as straight as you possibly can in whatever job task that you are doing. Here's another illustration right here, either right or wrong, okay? Look at the right real carefully. Your hands are perfectly straight. Your wrists are lined up. Which you look at the wrong side over here. Yeah, it's kind of a bad deal if you look at it real carefully, because these particular hand movements put a lot of strain, not on the wrist, but also on the top part of the hands, on the fingers. And it does cause a lot of hand movement problems. So keep them as straight as you possibly can. And hopefully this little illustration helps you out there as well. Sit, stand, or walk. Whoops, sorry about that. Sit, stand, or walk. Well, it comes down to this. Mix it up throughout the day if all possible. Once again, if you sit for maybe an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, when you come back off your break, once again, maybe you can go from sitting and maybe standing for maybe an hour or two. And then once again, kind of alternate back and forth. But find something that works best for your particular needs, whether you're standing or whether you're sitting. The other thing too is, they do mention up here, is maybe use of walking. Okay, the walking's a great idea and it works great. There's a few things I want you to keep in mind though. If you do elect to go with a walking style work area or workstation area, is it comes down to this: you've got to get the walking speed, the talking speed, the typing speed, and your visual all in sync of each other for the treadmill or to actually work like it's designed to. Because it does play an important part, but once again, it is good cardiovascular type of exercises, and it does keep you moving consistently. And that's one of the main things to always remember when you're looking at any type of musculoskeletal disorders or even office ergonomics. Once again, sit, stand, or walk. It gives you 3 choices, so just take the time to figure out which one works for your particular job task, but most important is which one are you most comfortable doing throughout the day, and try to alternate as much as you possibly can. The next part talks about laptop ergonomic guidelines. This is directly from the CDC. Recommends laptop computers not be used as primary computer at home or even at work. One of the things is occasional users should find a comfortable chair. The chair is the key thing to remember in any type. It doesn't matter if you're using a laptop or if you're using a desk model. You've got to be comfortable if you're going to be sitting for a period of time. Keep that wrist as neutral as you possibly can. Position the screen to minimize neck bending. And one of the ways that you can actually prevent a lot of this from occurring is if you do have a laptop, man, they work great. The thing to keep in mind, though, is consider and look into a docking station if all possible. What the docking station allows you to do is to use an external keyboard, which means the keyboard is going to be what? It's going to be larger than what the laptop keyboard would be. External monitor would be, or monitors would be something else that you want to kind of go for there as well. And that also eliminates not only your neck strain, also eliminates your vision strain. But the other most important thing, it makes it a whole lot easier for you to keep yourself in a neutral posture or a neutral position. Okay, so that's something that you do want to kind of keep in mind there. Here's some basic laptop guidelines. Take micro breaks. They call them mini breaks. Mini breaks are micro breaks, about over 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. That right there is something that you do want to kind of take note of, and it does make a huge difference, particularly in productivity, but not only that, it does reduce the physical strain on the body. So get up and take micro breaks. Keep viewing distance between 18 to 30 inches, and that's something to kind of take note of. Position the keyboard at elbow height. If you're going to be seated in a chair or a couch, use a pillow basically to support your arms while typing. One of the things that I do want to mention, since we're on this portion right here, it's very important, is please do not place the laptop on top of a pillow, a mattress, a comforter, or anything of that nature, because what you've got to keep in mind is you want to make sure that these laptop computers are able to breathe. They've got to be able to get fresh air flowing through there, because if not, you may have a tendency for that laptop to catch on fire, and that's what you really don't want to have to go through. So remember, elevate the keyboard just a little bit. I mean, the backup. You'll elevate the laptop just a little bit and use an external keyboard. It does make a huge difference. The other most important thing also is keep that screen as clean as you possibly can. If you have a dirty screen, it's going to be kind of hard for you to see what's on the screen itself. So go in there periodically, 1 or 2, 3 days, maybe once a week, depends on how bad the monitor actually is. Go in there and do a good cleaning of it. Wipe it down a little bit, get all the fingerprints off of it, get all the the dust and stuff like that. It makes it a whole lot easier to see visually. Let's go into the next part up here. If you have a laptop, once again, you're going to have to transport it somehow. You're going to move it from point A to point B. If your computer accessory is way more than 10 pounds, we're talking about the laptop and whatever else that you have in there, consider using a bag that has wheels on it. Okay, something that's mobile, something that's portable that you can move from point A to point B, and you don't have to lift it, you just roll it. Eliminate any unnecessary items from your whether it's going to be a briefcase, whether it's going to be some type of a bag wheeled, some type of shoulder bag, whatever it may be. The other thing too is if you do go to the shoulder bag or a shoulder case, make sure that thing has pad in the shoulder region. And the other thing too is that will help your lower back is to crisscross the strap of the shoulder bag across your chest area. It'll actually balance out the load as opposed to trying to hold up the shoulder at one time and then trying to keep the bag in position. So that's something that does work very well. And the other thing too is shift from side to side. In other words, left to right, and switch shoulders as well over a period of time. So kind of break it up just a little bit. The other thing too is on these, if you do have to transport a computer, is make sure that whatever you're transporting has padding in it. Because once again, it may drop, something may set on top of it, so make sure it does have extra padding in that particular case that you're hauling your laptop in. Okay, we always had a few facts and questions in here. And this is something that is normally asked during the class session. Put these together, some questions that people you normally will come up with. Does one size of office chair fit everybody? And the answer to that is no, it does not. Do keep in mind, not only do you have different individuals who are built differently, both size, height, does play an important part, but every chair is built differently, and one size does not fit everybody in the workplace. Does a background color affect your vision? It most definitely does. If you have a background that's too dark, you have a tendency to lean forward to see what's on the monitor. If your background color is too bright, you're going to have a tendency to move yourself away from the monitor. So find a neutral color that works best for you. What causes shoulder strain while sitting in my office chair? Well, there's a couple of things to kind of take note of here. Number one is if your shoulders are too high, you start getting that excruciating pain right between your shoulder blades, runs up to the back of the neck and then to the top of the head area. What that's caused from is pretty straightforward. Your shoulders are up too high. Lower those shoulders down and let them become in a neutral, relaxed position. And it does eliminate the shoulder strain in that area. And the other thing too that causes shoulder strain is if you have the mouse or the keyboard too far out in front of you and you're having to reach out to use that either mouse or keyboard continuously. Bring it as close to the body as you possibly can. It makes a tremendous amount of difference from you not having to overstrain or overstretch the upper part of the body. Why do I squint when looking at the computer monitor? Well, it goes back to one thing is what is the glare or how much is the lighting too bright or is the lighting too dark on the monitor? So go back and look at that. You can make adjustments there. Does a computer mouse come in different sizes? And most definitely they do. You can get left-handed mouse. You can also get mouse that are in different sizes, different shapes, different styles. When it all comes down to it, find a mouse that fit your particular hand shape and size. That's the key thing to remember there. Maybe borrow one from a coworker. Maybe a coworker has one that you think may work. See if you can borrow it for 30 minutes to an hour and see if it's going to work for your particular needs. Those are some things that you may want to consider there as well. But find one that fits your particular hand shape and size. Here at Oklahoma State University, we do offer a variety of different programs that fall underneath our department. We've actually included those on this particular presentation for you to kind of look at. The fire protection engineering, that's one we do provide. We also cover life safety and emergency preparedness, environmental compliance. We also cover laboratory safety, occupational safety, occupational health and medical surveillances, materials management, industrial hygiene, chemical hygiene, safety training we do cover as well within the Environment, Health, and Safety Department. Our contact information, here's my information right here, is area code 405-744-7241, or you can email us at ehs@okstate.edu. You can come by and visit with us. We're located over the University Health Services Science Building, Services Building here at OSU in room 002. Or you can actually go into the ehs.okstate.edu website, and we've got all kinds of additional information on pretty much any safety topic that you may find on there, safety questions, safety issues. So feel free to utilize any of the three that we did list on the screen there. I do thank you all for coming today. It's been a pleasure. Everybody have a safe and wonderful day, and I do thank you.